Back to Simply BSI, or Simply Budget, Save, and Invest. Back again as always with a portfolio update. Going to go over the positions I had that closed last Friday. This past Friday is January 30th, 2026, and how I generated $565 of net of income. That's option premium income last week, and go over some of the open positions I have currently in both my individual and traditional accounts. We can see here year to date, I'm currently down just 79.79% rather. So pretty flat on the year so far. A lot of volatility you could see there, but the market did not respond well to Trump's announcement of picking Kevin Warsh as the Fed chair replacement for Jerome Powell. So we can see my portfolio responded accordingly to that. So I'll go over some of the positions I have right now. One of the biggest dumps we saw was in silver. So we can see the very first position here is a SLV. That's a silver ETF, $75 put expiring February 2nd, which is Monday. So again, when I'm selling a put, in this case a cash secured put, I'm creating the obligation to purchase shares at that strike price in the event the underlying security falls below the strike price. In this case, in the event SLV falls below $75 by the end of market close on Monday. I think I might have said Tuesday before, but on Monday. In that case, if SLV does fall below $75, or rather close below $75 come market close on Monday, I'd be obligated to purchase 100 shares at $75. In the event SLV closes above $75 on Monday, I just collect that premium and, of course, not obligated to purchase those shares. So no longer that cash I'm holding right now as collateral, the $7,500, will, for lack of a better term, be unlocked, and I won't be held as collateral. Same deal with this ETH cash secured put. Again, creating the obligation to purchase 100 shares of the Ethereum ETF at $22 come market close on February 6th in the event ETH closes below $22. If not, again, just collect that premium. Don't have to worry about purchasing the shares. I actually also hold 100 shares of ETH. So this is kind of a position I'm trying to build for a long-term hold or a long-term outlook. A lot to do with tokenization, of course. But moving on, we also have an SMCI 31.5 call. So in this case, I sold a call against my SMCI position. We just go a little bit more further down. I have 100 shares at around the cost basis of $28.28, I believe it is. So again, in the event I'm assigned on this covered call, I'd be obligated to sell my SMCI shares at $31.50, which I'm not entirely mad about because, again, my cost basis is around $28, so I'd make the capital gain from the $28 to $31.5 I'm selling them at, as well as collecting that premium. And then you can see we have a Netflix cash secured put at $86, expiring February 13th. Also another long-term hold. So slowly building out a position in that. I prefer to build out positions by selling cash secured puts. Again, so if you have any high conviction stocks that you're willing to hold long-term, with this volatile market, it might just be a good idea to enter that position with a cash secured put in the event, of course, you have the capital to do so. So again, all that's kind of doing is just making sure you're willing, or rather, sell a cash secured put at a strike price you're willing to purchase the shares at. And that way, again, if it doesn't come down to that strike, you would just collect that premium. You can just keep doing that every week or every month, however long you place out the expiration date for. But I just like entering positions by selling cash secured puts as opposed to purchasing the shares right away. Lastly, we can see I have a sound leap in this case, which I actually don't open too often. I do have 100 shares of sound at a $12 cost basis, of which I'm going to hold regardless, or I essentially hold indefinitely until I get back up to that cost basis. Another long-term hold I like, worth looking into, SoundHound. They essentially do like voice AI for a lot of restaurants, fast food chains, that is, in terms of collecting orders with voice generated AI models. But that's something I'm willing to hold long term. So I decided to buy a leap just in the event because again, I'm going to hold those shares anyway. So I got a sound leap at the $10 strike there. And we can see again, I'm holding 100 shares of sound as well. We can also have 200 shares of IBIT. With the recent crash in Bitcoin, I thought it'd be a good idea to purchase some shares there. And I'm just going to start selling covered calls against it, but I want to wait until Bitcoin kind of recovers in price before doing so I can get a juicier premium. But I got shares, another 100 shares around $46, I believe. So that brought my cost basis down to $52 and some change. So I'm going to wait until Bitcoin recovers and IBIT's closer to around like $50 a share before I sell covered calls against it. And moving into the traditional, just going to speed things up here. Same deal. We can see from Friday's close, I was down about 1.54% in the day here. I have an open position for SMCI that expires next Friday. Again, as we saw in my individual account, I have shares that I sold a covered call against. This is a hedge I kind of wanted to place. So I sold a cash secured put at $30 strike. They do have their earnings next week, so it's expected to have volatility going into earnings. And SMCI is something I'm willing to hold long term, so I decided to sell cash secured put against it at that $30 strike for expiration February 6th. Then we have Netflix shares that I actually just got assigned on. So including my premium, I got assigned on an $86 cash secured put. What it did here was apply the premium I collected to my purchase of the shares. So as opposed to paying $86, I paid $83.45 per share after the premium was allocated toward that too. Hood, we can see I have 200 shares at the price of around $115.35. And we have BMNR as well, another Ethereum play, of which I currently have a covered call against it at the $35 strike. So again, just wanted to go over how I was able to generate roughly $560 between my two accounts. You can see here, I'm kind of tracking the weekly income from options on this Excel spreadsheet here, but I have it broken down by each of my accounts. So in the individual account, last week we can see expiration 1/30/2026, we collected $261.96 from an Amazon covered call that expired worthless. So in this case, Amazon closed below $240 on Friday. So I didn't have to sell my shares at the $240 strike. Instead, just collected the premium, and I kept my shares, which is perfect because Amazon's heading into with Amazon's earning next week. There's expected to be high volatility, implied volatility. So hopefully, the Amazon stock, their earnings beats and the stock responds accordingly. Again, it's not guaranteed with an earnings beat that the stock will go up. We've seen that with Microsoft and other stocks this week alone. So hopefully, Amazon does announce a beat and their stock reacts accordingly. That way I can start selling covered calls against it again and get some juicier premiums. We can also see here my traditional account, we have that Netflix cash secured put that actually got assigned on, but here we collected that $254.49. Again, that premium was allocated toward my purchase of the Netflix shares. So as opposed to having an $86 cost basis, we saw I have a roughly $83 cost basis because $2.54 was applied to each of those shares, reducing that cost basis. And then we can see here I had a hood covered call that expired worthless that I received around $49.48 for. So again, altogether we can see for week 5 we had $565.93 of option premium income collected. And we can see heading into next week, again, these figures are not final. These are just open option contracts I have, but currently with the options contracts I currently have open that expire next week, I should collect around $485 of options premium. Might open up a few more positions next week for the expiration of 2/6. I'll add to that number. And of course, I'll continue to open positions for week 7 of this year. That's going to be week ending February 13th. So that'll bring up my total for week 7. But thank you guys for checking in. Again, please like, comment, subscribe. And of course, looking forward to recording another one of these next week.